Hello, this is the way that I normally deal with CSV files. Now, a CSV file is when someone exports some data from a software program or from a website or from somewhere, and it all pops up into a spreadsheet. Looks kind of like this, where it's very boring and it's a whole bunch of columns with some random stuff typed into it, into columns and rows, and that needs to be imported into a spreadsheet. The reason why I go through this process, yes, it adds volume to the spreadsheet. Yes, it makes it a little more of a complicated process, but it saves you a lot of time in the long run because CSV data can change. And I've actually got three different batches of the data where I've made certain changes to it. And I want to show you how this process actually adapts to those changes so that you can understand why we need to do this. I need to do this very often when you're dealing with exported data that comes via CSV, and we need to put it into the spreadsheet and then do something with it, because we cannot rely on that data being in the same format every single time. Now, obviously, if the format changes considerably, we need to redo this and look at the spreadsheet and recreate it. But this should capture a lot of the changes that happen often. So let me show you what I mean and how the process works. Usually, if you've got a spreadsheet, or if I'll be making one for you, there'll be a little batch to the side. Now, I've only done 20 rows or so. This will normally go down a long way, and you might even have a lot more, but you'll get the concept. You'll have a batch here where you actually dump the raw CSV data into. Then you'll have a few columns to select the headers, and then you'll have your extracted data. And I'm going to show you how it deals with the differences if the CSV changes. So this would be the simplest CSV, how you'd start. We'd obviously build it according to whatever data you've got at the beginning, and then I'll show you what happens if some of the stuff changes. So we go to the raw data, include one header column. Sometimes you'll have a CSV that's going to have, let's get rid of that, that's going to have an extra row here. Sometimes it's even merged. Whatever the case might be, you have some kind of funny business going on here between the data. Anything that's in between, you just want to get rid of that so that you go straight from one header row into your raw data. Anything that's above that, that's not necessary, we can just clear out. This is essentially what we want to be left with, is one header row and then straight into the raw data. So if we copy the header as well, down to the bottom of the raw data, right click and say copy. Once you've got that, you can go to the data conversion. Now, let me just make sure a few things here. You don't want to copy right at the top here, because that's literally copying all 1 million odd rows. You don't want to do that because it's not going to paste into the new spreadsheet. If you don't want to sit scrolling down, you can actually go to the first column, press Shift, Control, and down, and it'll jump down to the bottom, and Shift, Control, and right, and it'll go to the right. Else, if it's a short one, you can just highlight it. Once you've got the data you need, copy into the new spreadsheet. Now you want to right click here in the first one, in the gray row under the first column, right click. Now this is very important, not normal paste, because that'll keep the formatting from the CSV, and you don't want to do that. You want to do paste values. Paste values means just paste the data. You paste in the data from the CSV, and you are going to paste the data into there like that. Now this tells you your column headers, and this is all your data that you've got in the spreadsheet. So now we want to tell the spreadsheet what columns do we actually need. So now I would have set this up where I would have given these columns names so you understand which data needs to go into each of those different columns. So this might be name, address, cost, value, whatever your columns are that you're doing. So don't panic too much if you're not sure what needs to go there. I'll create the spreadsheet that it'll show you exactly what you need. And then all you do is you tell the spreadsheet. So for this column, which I call column 1, you tell it which of these columns to use. So the first time you set it up, you'll say that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, and that's 5. So you've told it which columns to use. It now extracts the data. You can have a look there. Let's just take one, for example, 5, A, B, C, D, E, F5, A, B, C, D, E. So they're all in the correct column where they need to be based on the raw data, and you've set that up. So now, in theory, if we just built the spreadsheet to accept the data straight from the CSV, we could have just pasted it straight into there and it works. But because there could be changes to the CSV, and also because you may have extra columns in here that you're not actually using, it can just extract what you need. So that data stays constant. So now what happens if the data changes. Well, what I've done on the second data tab is I've still got column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 like I did before, but now I've added in column 6, 7, 8, and 9, and I've put them in between those ones. So if we now get this data set, so the CSV actually changes, when you copy that, and you come to your CSV and you paste that in again, paste values, remember not normal paste, paste values, you're going to paste over it. It still pulls out the correct data because it's still looking for 1, because you've said column 1 is 1 and it's found that header. You've said column 2 is 2 and it's found that one. So it ignores that, it ignores that, it ignores that, it ignores that, and it just pulls out what you need. So you don't need to worry if they add columns or if they move columns around, if they change the order of the data, because you've told it here what the header is that you're looking for and which one goes into which of these columns. So your exported data will still work. Spreadsheet will work fine. Now there's another change. What happens if they change one of the headers? So for example, here, instead of the digit 1, I've typed in the word 1. What happens if they do something like that? Well, what happens then is if you copy that and you dump that into here, that will give you a cross and go, I can't find the column for column 1 because you said it was 1. Now, when I click on the drop down, it said now gives the option of 1 because now there's a column that says 1. And when I select that, it brings the data back in again. So if the headers change, it then gives you the new one. It then alerts you to the fact that something's wrong. You can click on it. You can select the new header that represents that data, and it brings it back in here, and all of your data is still clear and accounted for. So this is just something to help to actually adapt to changes in the CSV data so that this raw data is always the same. Therefore, the spreadsheet always works and you're not going to get yourself into trouble. So if you are if you are planning to do a spreadsheet where the CSV data comes in and changes, hopefully this will explain how I overcome that. And if you've got your very own spreadsheet of this, yours might well look more complicated than this, but the concept's very much the same. Dump the CSV data in, make the selections, and see the raw data, the data that's going to be used, and see that that's correct. You might have other alerts and other warnings and other options and things going on, but in essence, it's pretty much the same. So I really hope that helps you. Thanks.